The
stars are
Bassin
bright
Magazine
out there.
podcast. We are live. And I'd like to tell you, Bassin Magazine, guys, Bassin Magazine is the official magazine of the Weekend Angler. And to talk to the Weekend Angler tonight, we have Jimmy from Oklahoma. How are you doing tonight, Jimmy?
I'm all right. I'm tired of these triple-digit days, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah. Man.
Yeah.
I'm a commercial
I know
roofer.
y'all are in Oklahoma. I'm down here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where it gets up to 100 degrees every single day. Then right at 4:30, it starts raining. I mean, you can
We-
see
wish it
these daily rainstorms.
Yeah, there's been no rain here, and Jimmy's a roofer. Jimmy's on top of roofs doing that in
No
our
wonder,
triple
man.
digit heat.
Woo!
And we're not talking triple digit of 101. I believe it was 109 today in Tulsa.
Yes.
109.
Yeah. 109.
129 on
That's-
that roof.
That's not the heat index. And it's not a dry heat, guys. That's a humid
Dry
109 heat index 117 stuff. Yeah.
That's what I like to tell people. You know, it's dry heat in an oven too, but it still cooks things, doesn't it?
Right.
Absolutely.
And it cooks people up on the roof, man. You can just bring up some eggs up there and fry them up for lunch.
Honestly, it felt pretty bad. Brad knows as well. There's a lot of homeless on the north side of Tulsa, and that's where we're working at. And I see them people laid out all over, and just it crushes your heart. But what do you do?
Yeah.
It crushes
Yeah.
your heart. So, Jimmy, we were talking about beforehand, or you like to do some cranking in the late summer.
I like to do it if they're biting it. Them big crankbaits, you can throw them a long ways, but you got to reel them back. That's a lot of work sometimes.
A lot of the new presentations are like the big crankbaits, like Alabama rigs, like.
But with the new electronics and the live scope and all that, you don't have to cast as much anymore. Even with just regular down imaging or side imaging and not even the live scope, you can still pinpoint those fish using your electronics, and you don't have to cast near as much.
So that's what. And when you're talking deep cranks, what is your favorite deep crank to use? I know that's a very broad question, but so we're in a deep summer right now.
Right.
Water temperatures are over 90 degrees.
This is an XD6 Strike King model.
Okay.
I like it. I've got some Profound there in my boat, but I really like the XD6. It's not too deep. One thing you got to look for when you're fishing the deeper summer holes is because there are times where throwing these big 10 XDs. Ooh, there it is. A great big bait with a big bill on it to wear you out, but you're fishing in 20, 25 foot of water. But you got to watch the thermocline. If you're below it, you're wasting your time. So you could even see that with the older electronics as well, but not as easy as you can now. Brad, you're making me get drunk silly.
Hey, I'm sorry. My map's reset, and I'm driving, so you're good. I have maps going on my other phone, and because I wanted to be in this. So,
guys, what Jimmy's talking about is the thermocline. There's not going to be any oxygen below the thermocline. It usually, in the late summer, the water will stratify. And if you do have older electronics, you can't see a discrete layer. The way I would do it back in the 90s is I would drive my boat across the lake, and you notice that the fish are all stacked up like at 25 feet. You don't see any fish below 25 feet. Well, then you know that the thermocline's at 25 feet. And way back when, what we would do is we would go and kind of just work that 25 foot area, where the bottom met the thermocline.
I know there's some Bassin readers that are out there, and Jimmy, I'm not going to tell anybody's age, but I actually learned about a thermocline and how to see where it was on an old Lowrance flasher.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
You could see where it was, and the older generation out there doesn't even know or the younger generation doesn't know what a flasher is. But
the old green box,
the old green box, yeah.
And it made a really cool noise,
88 for me.
Yeah.
When I learned to read that, yeah.
Yep. About the same time. About the same
Honestly,
time for
they're
me.
pretty accurate.
Yeah. You could if you studied it long enough, just like the electronics today, it's all about studying it. But if you studied that flasher long enough, you could learn how to detect shad. I can tell you if it's shad or thermocline.
Just But that's what I was saying earlier, Jay. You know, we're talking about the thermocline. There's several things that come into play here. Is channel swings on your creek channels. Um, any kind of movement of water in the late summer is a bonus. And if you can find a bottleneck or a hairpin turn in the creek channel and pinpoint that, you can mark fish on it. Usually, it's a place to be, to position your boat, throw up the creek channel from them, bring it down through them. Definitely a game changer for the deep water baits.
Yes.
But once you get them fired up, whether it's with the crankbait or honestly a mag shaky head or a really big, where's the thing at? That's a 12-inch.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah.
And,
Who makes that, Jimmy?
a friend of mine out of Arkansas used to fish the. He just does it for fun. He made me a bunch up before he got out of the FLW tour, and I've still got them, still use them. So
Hey, we have a comment here, guys. It's our old friend Cajun Rob again, Brad.
Hey, all right.
Cajun Rob said if you were really good at flashers back in the day, you could also tell the bottom composition.
absolutely.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Grass and rock, and yes, absolutely.
yeah. Tell the difference for sure. Yeah, yeah. He's right. So see, Cajun Rob knows how to read a flasher.
Oh yeah.
Now, along with the crankbaits, you've got several different. Which this is an XD8 here. You can see how wide that bill is.
Yes.
So that's going to have a fairly wide wobble to it. This is actually a H2O crankbait. Where are we at in the camera at?
Oh yeah, this camera's backwards in the way you think it is, Jimmy.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And that's a narrower whip. You can see the two there. That gives you an idea of the wobble on them. And then the body shape, also the water displacement when it comes through the water.
Sure.
It's a totally different sound and feel. And they may bite one day and the other one the next. You just never know till they fire off on it.
Right.
If you find a creek bend or, you go out east and you find the mussel beds, or just here in Oklahoma, you find a patch of rock out on some sand on Eufaula or something, and you mark fish on it. I know a lot of guys like to throw the 6-inch spoon and just
look at that.
fish them. And
That looks like a Mesu. That looks like a Mesu bait spoon.
no, it's just a Strike King. I ran to the house and grabbed what was laying on the table. So sorry,
I
Shane.
tried. I tried.
Well, we give him a little plug, but he does make an exceptional spoon. Now, if you want to get real serious, there's a couple of guys on Grand that I know that use these a lot. Several of the pros use them, but you want to get into some serious spoon fishing on Grand or any of the Oklahoma lakes. That's a 9-inch spoon. But actually, like to take this and pull up in them empty dock slips over that deep water, whoop, and just drop it right in the middle and let it fall. Pretty exciting until you hook a pole or a pipe, but those aren't cheap.
Yeah, that
$30,
looks like
$35 a piece. And,
looks like stripers would bite that too, huh?
oh, I'm sure they would.
There's a big long deep point on 10 killer. I'm not saying what COVID is, but the treetops are out there, and there might be. Yeah, and the big spoons right there, right now in the big heat of summer, it's killer. The largemouth and the smallmouth are right there.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned that. I wasn't even thinking Lake of the Ozarks or Table Rock. They'll fish that spoon in 50, 60 foot of water in the treetops.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just sit there one after the other. Chunk, chunk, chunk. Exciting. Now, I will say when you're fishing these bigger crankbaits, don't fish it on a graphite rod. Use a composite or fiberglass, at least a 7.8 or a 7.10. That's just my personal preference. I used to have one left. Don't have any solid glass rods left. So I honestly don't know how the XD8 and 10 fish on it. Do the smaller ones, but not the big ones. But I use a 710 composite rod for the bigger crankbaits. It don't wear you out as much.
Okay.
What kind of line for what kind of depths?
Depends. If I'm in the grass or treetops, like we were talking a while ago, or brush, you're banging that thing through the brush in 10 to 20 foot of water, 25 foot, I'll throw 15 pound on it, 14 or 15, depending on the, I want to be able to yank it out of that grass and stuff. But if I'm just fishing open points and whatnot, I might even have 10-pound test on them.
So are you talking mono, fluoro, braid?
I did switch at one time to fluoro from mono, and I went back to the mono simply because of the stretch on it. You can get them unhung a little easier.
Okay.
They don't seem to hang up as much because they get that little bit of stretch and release, and I think that they perform a little better.
Okay.
Now, I will say the fluoro, when you're digging in the rocks, obviously it's more sensitive, but I didn't think it was worth it. I mean, if they eat a crankbait, you're going to know it usually. So I've seen videos where they eat it and nobody even sets the hook, and you're like, how do you not feel that? Well, I don't know, not paying attention, I guess, but I'm sure it happens. But I think crankbait fishing, if you're using the right crankbait, they're going to eat it.
Sure.
Yeah. Jimmy, I had a question the other day come up at one of the podcasts afterwards. And I answered it from my perspective, but from a pro angler perspective on your side, the question was, how hard do you set the hook on a crankbait when you feel a fish?
I don't.
I don't either. And I wanted to make sure I gave the right advice, but explain your thoughts on that.
You're using a single treble hook, and if you yank it, chances are it's going to pull that hook out. So, and a lot of this has to do with focus when you're fishing. If you're throwing a little caddy to the left, when that fish bites, you want to pull the swing to the right. All I do is swing. There's no hook set. And you should feel that head shake at first, or the fish, if it's a good one, it may just dive deeper. But now, if they come out of the shallows, they're going to run at you, and you just got to burn it and catch up with them.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. The ratio on the reel makes a difference.
Sure.
You don't want to throw these things on a 7 or an 8 gear ratio reel. You'll be done by 9 o'clock. But throw it at 6.3 or a 5.1, something in that neighborhood. But no, on the hook set, Brad. And the other thing is, you should be watching your line. You should know which direction the fish hit from. That should tell you which way to swing. And
I told him I fish, normally would try to put my rod tip towards the water. I don't have it high. I fish a worm high, a crankbait low, and I'm reeling that, and it's more of a pull or a swift move instead of a hook set.
Absolutely.
Going back to what you said about the reel, if you have that high speed ratio too, you might be moving that crankbait way too fast, and they're not going to eat it, especially in this heat.
Absolutely. Depending on the time of the year and the activity of the fish. Now, if you got fish that are schooling, that's a different story. But I don't know. I've seen Kevin Van Dam throw them, and I think he throws a crankbait about 82 miles an hour.
Yeah.
The man he made a comment when you're on Grand. His, whatever the guy in the boat with him, the observer, he lost a 5.5 at the side of the boat, and I believe it was in the Classic. And he said, does that make you mad? And he said, no, I made that one bite. I'll make another one bite. Yeah. And when you have that kind of confidence, you're going to be in the game, and you'll know what ratio and speed you need to be fishing.
Yeah, absolutely.
It'll just feel right, in my opinion.
And as a weekend angler, if I tie on a crankbait, maybe I start fast and start to go slow. And when you catch a fish, you kind of try to remember where you were, how fast you were reeling, and that kind of stuff, and mimic that. And if you can catch another one, then that's what you're going to be doing all day. Slow crank, fast crank, burning, whatever.
Right. And if you're going down just a bank or point and you pull up there and start slinging, you catch one or two, you want to look at your graph, not on the 2D, but on the charts and see where that fish was in the water column. So
Right,
that
right.
you can use that for information going on down the road.
Yep.
It's not just pick them up and chunk and wind. Everybody thinks it's a dummy bait. It's really not.
No.
You
No,
can do,
no.
there's several things. Let's say this isn't necessarily deep water cranking. It could apply, but not as much. You're fishing a square bill or a DT6 or something. Put a smaller hook on the front. It won't get hung up as much. One size smaller. So there's little things you can do with them to change everything. I've actually had a guy take some DT16 bills out of a Rapala and put them in a DT10 body so I can get that smaller body down.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah. That's modification right there.
Shoot, there ain't no telling how many baits I run back in the 80s and 90s. I'd be drilling holes and shoving stuff in them and filling them with water. Back before we had suspending crankbaits,
Yeah.
we had all kinds of suspending crankbaits, but drill a hole in them and fill them with water. Used vegetable oil, used all kinds of experimental stuff.
And take your mom's red fingernail polish and one swipe down the side of it.
Absolutely. The Grand Lake in May and June, the baby bass 7A bomber was the thing. And you'd take
Yeah.
that red and go floop, floop on both sides. And that was
Right.
money.
That's how I originally
But-
got a pink Rapala. Yes.
Yeah. But why did you do that? Because it gave you confidence.
Yes,
It-
they bet it.
it-
They ate it.
Yeah.
You didn't necessarily care why. You just knew it worked.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yep.
You're exactly right. I didn't care why.
Man, I used to buy those 7A bombers from the lady at Walmart back home for $1 and a nickel a piece. I'd buy them 6 at a time. If I'd only known, I'd have had piles of them.
Right.
I love that old crankbait.
Yeah.
It's probably my favorite. It just got a different sound to it. And I won a lot of money on it, so
Yeah.
that kind of makes it a favorite too.
Right.
Okay, so
Right.
Jimmy, so late summer, big reservoirs of Oklahoma. Other than cranking, what else? What
Big
else?
worm. Big
The
worm.
big worm. The big ribbon tail or straight worm?
Nah, that's a personal
Yes.
preference.
Yes.
Preference
Okay.
and
Yes.
as well as water pressure or people pressure. If it's a busy lake like Grand, it's getting beat up every weekend. Well, that old paddle tail worm, probably a better bet than a big ribbon tail. But
Because they've seen it all week, every weekend.
I mean, I've got some 12-inch shaky head. Gene LaRue used to make them, and they're
Sure.
big around as your first finger.
I'm
They're a
gonna
big
try
old
to
piece of
find
plank.
some of these things.
Yeah.
You're not going to find those.
So,
I have some old power baits that are half an inch around
Yep.
and 12 inches long.
I've got 3 packs left. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. But
Black-
they're
blue
big
flag,
old
red
black
flag.
worms. Yeah.
Yep. Now, who was it that made a segmented paddle tail? I think it was gator tail or something. I don't remember. I was younger then. I wasn't even driving then, and I remember them, but I never used them. But they were just Now some of them guys I've seen down at Fork and all that in Texas, them guys throw some plastic now.
Right. Yeah.
Jeff over at Basquando or New Wave Plastics, he's got that's a behemoth. I mean, that's a snake. That's a big one.
Yeah.
And he makes a good worm for that. Oh, he's
I
digging, isn't he?
Yeah. He's digging.
Look,
Flip tail out of Arkansas. I'm not sure if they're still around. I know they came back for a while, but they made that big lizard and they made a big worm.
somebody just dropped a big lizard the other day. I mean, and then I've got another friend that over in Arkansas. He pours a 10-inch Cinco.
Oh wow!
And it looks like a cigar.
Wow!
I'm like, I don't know if I can.
Big,
It's
yeah.
cool, but
I came back from ICAST. Z-Man went down with sizes of baits,
Mm-hmm.
I
A lot of
really
fancy
did.
stuff come out.
Yeah, yeah. I really didn't see anything big
Nothing.
plastic wise. I did want to say that Spro came out with a deep diver, a 20-footer crankbait.
They needed to.
I do what?
They needed to.
Yeah, Spro came out with that. It looks good. Z-Man has a topwater bait that it'll just blow your mind looking at it. Like, why would you throw this? It's half chatterbait, half walking stick, and it has the chatterbait blade on the end of it, but it sits down low in the water and it makes a huge wake, or you can walk the dog with it while that blade's vibrating.
I hadn't
Yeah,
seen
when you see it and you're like, this is the dumbest thing ever, and when you think about it and watch it in the water, it's like, man, I cannot wait to throw this. This is awesome.
Well, I know you know about the one I've got coming out. We're changing a few things in the mold with adrenaline tackle and making the hardware just a little bit, I don't know how to say it, where we feel it'll last longer.
Sturdier, yeah.
Yeah. And not to take away what we're trying to put with it. And having some good results with the testing so far. So I'm excited.
Good.
Well, guys, what I was trying to find here is I had a 12-inch straight worm made by Bass Reaper Bait Company.
Oh, Bass Reaper?
Bass Reaper.
I was trying to find them, and, I just think that's something a little bit different, to use on the end of long points where you see fish just kind of hanging around where that point starts to come up. I haven't caught any fish doing it yet, but I've been trying to put that on big.
Well, that's what I use, these bigger worms, and then I'm sorry, Richard. It's my fault. I didn't grab one. Richard with Adrenaline Tackle. He's got a shaky head that's got a rattle in it.
Okay.
Inside the head, and he makes them in 1/2 and 3/4 big ones.
Big,
and
yeah.
throw these big worms, and it just adds a little to it,
Well, Jimmy and Brad, so this big straight worm, would you Carolina rig that or shaky head it?
Yeah, both.
Both? Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't tried to Carolina rig it.
You go to Lake Fork with Chuck Justice in Texas rig it.
Texas rig it. True.
He wouldn't heartbeat.
He might even drop shot that thing.
Chuck would say, "Oh, it looks like an eel. They'll eat it," and he'll throw it and catch a fish.
Yeah, I mean, you could throw that on a shaky head. You could throw this one if they use the plastic that New Wave Plastic does, where it floats. You couldn't throw that if it was just hanging there like that. I don't think you wouldn't be able to fish it slow. You'd have to keep it moving.
Keep it moving, yeah.
Yeah, no, you just change out your little finesse hooks, your 1s and 2s, and use an actual 5/0 hook.
Okay. Well, I can't wait to get back out, because this is the time of the year to get out there on those long points, the deepest water you can possibly find. That's above the
productive
thermocline, and throw the big, like Jimmy was saying, the
big baits.
Stuff.
Yeah,
maybe even big swim baits in down there too.
I was gonna say there's a lot being posted on Facebook now up in the Grand Lake area. 2 or 3 or 4 of the guys that are sticks that are using I'm going to screw it up here. In fact, he just put some up today. They're expensive. They're 120, 30. No, well, I say they're expensive. That's nothing compared to some of them swim baits out in California.
Oh, right.
A house payment for a swim bait.
Yes.
And then you've got Mike Buca. He makes an amazing shad. And but they're expensive. Well, you're paying for what you get. Those baits are tuned and tested. Is it BG or I wish I could remember the name. I don't have any yet. I've gone to order twice and he was out. But there's several guys from Grand that are using it and had great success with it. He's getting a lot of push for it. And
I was showing Jay last. Yeah, they are expensive. I was showing Jay last week, and at ICAST, Fish Lab came out. They've got a 5-inch shad, jointed swim bait, and their pitch on that is if you're going to have a custom bait painted, you're going to pay $15. This swim bait is suspending and has I don't know, 8 or 9 different colors, and it's $16.99 retail.
Oh, really? That's cheap.
Yeah, that's good. That's inexpensive. So if I'm cutting out, I'm in the middle of nowhere. I feel like I am.
No,
I
you're
was
not cutting out
looking
yet.
for
Not yet.
Okay.
this guy. I wanted to give him a little shot because he makes an exceptional bait. I know I shared it with somebody, but I can't remember who it was. Well, if I find it, I'll go back and try to post it in the comments. Anyway, it's a 7-inch swim bait, jointed, but he hand tunes them. I mean, they're right. But you're right with the electronics, especially because a swim bait like that is a whole different concept of fishing to me. 2 years ago, the Big Bass Splash on Lake of the Ozarks. I fished with Glenn Mann. We caught some 3s and 4s. Never got close to one check. That was it. We're going into this cove and we pass a little red tracker bass boat, and this guy throws something down this bluff line that looked like a junior high football painted white. And I'm like, what in the? And we went in there and fished, and we come out and we're leaving. And we had about an hour to go the second day, and we pull out, and lo and behold, that tracker pulls up right beside us. And I said, "You guys have a good day?" And he said, "Well, I guess so. Fixing to go pick up a $100,000 check." And I said, "Really? Did you win this thing?" And he said, "Yeah, yesterday. We think we have anyway. As far as we know, we have. You know, they're in a 16-foot tracker aluminum boat with a 50-horse motor on it, or 115. 2 younger guys from Arkansas. They brought 4 swim baits with them and fished them all weekend there. Got 3 bites, made $130,000, and went home. But
wow.
they threw those along bluff lines the whole weekend, and the 3 bites they got were all 5 and up.
Yep. Yeah.
Whatever he won with was like a 7-pounder.
When you catch a fish on it, it's a good one.
Good one. So that is a new art that will be a player, especially with with glide bait, like glide bait or swim bait, they are different.
Right.
That's a very slow presentation. Well, to go fish water that you don't know what's there, you can fish all day and not touch a sniff of anything. But if you've got forward-facing sonar and whatnot, you know there's fish along that wall that are either bass or, depending on the amount of time you have on your equipment. And you fish those type of baits where other people are throwing jerk baits, swim baits, crank baits, whatever beside them. Plastic swim baits, like I've got some 9 and 10-inch plastic swim baits that are about that big around. I don't have any confidence in them. I throw them. I haven't thrown them a lot, so something I need to learn.
Yeah, I don't spend enough time on the water with the swim baits, and it's something that Jay and I talk about a lot in every podcast. If you want to learn a bait, take it and only that, and go to a pond where there's fish. Learn how to fish it. Learn the different actions and do that. And I'm horrible about it. I say it every time. It's swim baits, glide baits, something that I want to learn. I just never do it.
That's like Jason Christie's on that TV commercial where he's throwing that little yum bait, a 3-inch minnow on a 1/4 ounce head or whatever. And nobody used to do that in bass fishing. Now they do it all the time. And that's something up at Table Rock. It's huge up there. And as well as in the Clear Lakes, like where the elites were just at and headed to this week. I mean, it's just a different type of fishing, and we don't do it much around here. But it works. You get up in the morning and you tie a whopper plopper on or a buzzbait. Well, not too many people use the buzzbait like they used to, but it still works.
I was about to say, they use them a lot down here.
This guy does. I'm a buzzbait fool. But with that being said, I'll only use black, and I'll only use a black with a clacker. I don't know why. I have no confidence in anything else.
Hey, I got some pink ones. Richard made me some pink ones you ought to try.
Oh, yeah.
Pink skirt, pink blade.
Yeah.
For clear water.
Yep. Wow.
I don't know. Carrie throws a pink Cinco on all the clear water we go to, so maybe the buzzbait will work there too.
It's bubble gum. They're bubble gum.
Yeah, bubble gum.
Yeah.
Bubble gum.
But I don't know. Every time I take her, she wants to take everything we catch home and cook it.
I know. I get that.
Excuses. Those might be a check one of these days. Let's not leave them here. We've kept some before. Not very many, but it's okay.
Yeah.
I am a big boy. I do like fried foods. So
Hey, I love fish. If I catch crappie or walleye, man, yeah, I'm in.
my dad went on a walleye trip up in Canada, 6 days, at a different guide each day. They had their own batter flavor. You know, they fix a shore lunch, and he said it's better than any. And he's
Oh man,
There's something about it when it's cooked over a wood fire up there on a Canadian Shield rock, just chunk of rock that comes out of the water, and they call it an island. There's not one tree on it.
Yeah.
And those guys will just go right up on that, and they won't even try to go over to the leeward side. They just go right up on it, and 3-foot waves, and you jump out, and man, they start cooking. There's something about that.
Oh.
Walleye's so good anyway.
Oh yeah.
Yes. And out of cold water like they have up in Canada, geez.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd probably get in trouble if I went up there because I'd be trying to ship that stuff back.
You can ship back a certain amount, and you better believe they're going to weigh it too.
Oh yeah. They were big that day. No.
Yeah.
We caught all 8-pounders. No, I'm just kidding. No, Jay, it's the summertime, and there is a time when you get close to the lake turning over that you're going to have to switch up, move shallower, and get away from it. But when it's in the act of turning over,
yes,
go to another lake.
Turnover, yes. When
the oxygen level flips it, yes. And you got leaves
you start
floating
to see the stuff
everywhere.
goes on the bottom, on the top of the water. That's how you can tell this is going on, guys. All of a sudden, you see all kinds of stuff, and there's bubbles coming up from the bottom. And we have another comment from Cajun Rob here, guys. It says pink works well year-round on Lake Cumberland in Kentucky.
Really? I drove past Cumberland on my way to the Potomac one year. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's a long drive, but I'd like to go back up there at least one more time.
I don't even want to talk about driving.
Yeah. But yeah, guys, during the turnover, that's when there is going to be no more thermocline in the lake. And
Correct.
It's the water is almost completely mixed, and the fish just put on the feed bag during that. There's all kinds of nutrients coming up, so the minnows are very, very well fed.
Yes, sir.
And so the fish get very well fed. And it's not quite as bad as a mayfly hatch. They're not going to have sore stomachs like they just ate a whole Papa John's pizza.
A 10-inch fish that weighs 2 pounds. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Big fat footballs, and you're like,
we've all seen it happen. Well, like when you have a big snap die off, and all the fish just go around and gorge themselves on those dead things.
It's almost like a false spawn. They're just feeding that like that.
Yes.
Yes.
You mentioned feeding and whatnot. That's another thing on your crankbaits to think about. This is probably my most. That's probably the one I throw. I gotta show it, I guess. That's that old speckleback.
Ooh, look at that!
That is probably my number one deep crankbait. I just caught more fish on it. Bagley's used to make a brown crawdad that had some orange checkering or something on the side. That one was pretty good in Oklahoma, but that old speckle belly, later summer, or speckleback, excuse me, that's probably my number one. But you get a little stain in the water, that white still works. So it's a very versatile crankbait for multiple uses.
That crankbait right there, the black spatterback, the white side, the chartreuse bottom, that's my go-to on Eufaula and smallmouth and largemouth. Eat it on Lake Eufaula, Lake Eufaula, Oklahoma.
Yes, sir.
Sure.
Well, Grand Lake, they eat the tar out of it in the fall. So
yeah.
There will always be one tied on my boat in July and August. So, but citrus shad's a great color too. I mean, you just gotta see what works for you and throw what you. And I'll be honest with you, like right now, might be a little early, maybe not quite that big, but a crappie color, which that speckleback kind of looks like crappie. If you ask me through the water, I don't think they tell a shad or a crappie. No, I ain't eating that. That's crappie, or however you want to say it. I think if it goes by, they're going to eat it. But if it's close to what they're eating on.
Yeah. Or you make them mad with the reaction by, they'll eat it.
Mm-hmm.
Right presentation in front of the right fish at the right time, and it'll eat it.
Yeah, there's nothing to that bass fishing, is there? At least if you're a doctor, they got a YouTube video you can watch how to take a heart out and put it back. With bass fishing, it changes every 10 minutes.
Right.
Uh-oh, Brad got stuck.
So, Jimmy, we're coming towards the end of the show now. Would you like to do any shout outs to any thank yous to any organizations or individuals or companies that helped you along the way?
Yeah, I've got several companies that I'm working with, building relationships for next year. Bass kind of changed things up this year, so next year I'm not sure where we're headed yet.
Yeah,
that was a big. I finally stepped up into the opens and getting my feet wet, and they go and change the parameters on it. And a lot of people say, I will touch that on it a little bit. A lot of people say, well, if you don't have the money to fish the opens, 9 of them, you can't fish the elites. Well, here's 2 things. 9 opens is less time than 7 elites. And then money-wise, yes, the elites cost more. But if I come to you as a company owner or prospective partner, and I said, hey, I'm fishing opens next year. You want to partner up with me and let's do some advertising, blah, blah, blah? Yeah, they might. But if you tell them you're in, you're paid up, and you're fishing the elites, that's 2 days a week or a month, depending on how the schedule goes. Could be 4 times a month, 6 times on FS1 plus fees.
And also, they might come to you if you're fishing the elites
as well, because it's a whole different ball game.
It's a whole different ball.
Yeah.
I will say the high school and the college kids have a great opportunity to get hooked up with the right companies because they're the younger generation. They're into the marketing, the social media, and that kind of stuff. So they'd much rather partner with someone like that that's not a loose cannon, who can go out and party all night, but a good kid that's a good angler and clean. And they'd rather partner with him than a 50-year-old any day of the week. It's all about the money, and those kids can sell.
Right.
So
it's going to be an interesting field next year to see who is in every single one of those tournaments, because you have to fish all of them, and where that's going to go and how it's all going to happen.
Wait, I don't now. Can you still just fish one of them, or you got to fish? I don't know if I read it right or not. I don't remember.
My understanding was you have to fish them all.
I thought you had to fish all of them to qualify or get invited to the elites.
Right. So
I didn't know if you could just fish one division just to fish it and get a shot at going to the Classic.
Yeah, I maybe you can. Maybe I have to go back and read it and check it.
I haven't, but
yeah.
I'm hoping that's the case. I'd like to fish them another year. But it is going to mix things up. And who knows? Maybe Bass is going to bust a new trail out.
Right.
A new qualifying trail. Look at that grin. Brad might know something.
I'm if you're going to compete with other divisions, you've got to do something different. And maybe that's maybe that is. I mean, that's, you got to do something. If you're going to compete, and it's not just Bassmaster against Major League Fishing. It's any company against any company. You have to stay on top of trends and figure something out if you're going to compete. And maybe this is their first step to figuring something out to compete.
I hope so, because, bass anglers deserve the same, in my opinion. And I don't want to get into it too much. We don't have that much time, but to end up where NASCAR is or rodeo, those guys have more ample time or opportunity to make money where the bass fishermen don't.
Right.
And it costs a lot to travel across this country and fish. And to pay those guys back for their work and give them an opportunity like the other sports, the problem is we don't have a stadium full of $20 hot dogs and beer.
Right.
That's the
Right.
biggest problem. So how do you overcome that? I don't know. I saw a pontoon on Facebook the other day delivering pizza on a lake. That might work. I don't know.
I saw that.
I was like, where are those guys at when I'm hungry?
Right.
So I don't know how the financial curve is the problem. And, it was back in, I don't remember what year, Bass had the opportunity to go all in with ESPN. And if they'd have pursued it, I think we'd have been in a different place right now.
Well, yeah, I'm not going to say that. Yeah.
And I get it. But, I mean, there has to be a way. And to be honest with you, old Johnny will figure it out. He'll find a way to make it happen, I think. And who knows? But
yeah,
he brought a whole different elevation to the table after the boys opened the MLF.
right.
And the direction they went. And,
right.
Here's the deal. You have three major bass fishing trails in the country. And there is 350 guys out of how many bass fishermen? I guarantee you right here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, there's 50 guys that could whoop anybody traveling, but they don't make the commitment or take the time to make it happen. It is, I've heard stories about several of the different guys on tour, how they manage that and separate life from fishing so that they can focus on it. And
I know a kayak guy. Let's say this. I know a kayak kid. Jay knows him as well. I would put a paycheck with him fishing against anybody because the kid is that great. He got a scholarship kayak bass fishing to a college and started a kayak team.
Yes.
Wow.
And also he had his own boat, a professional type boat by the time he was 18.
Yeah.
He won that much money fishing kayak tournaments when he was in high school.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
I would put him up against anybody. I'm so glad he's in school. I'm so glad he's learning, getting that college education. I'm super proud of him. He's a great, great young man. I can't wait till he graduates. He's going to kill out there.
A guy out in California he was a kayak bass fisherman named Damian Tao. I put him up against anybody. He's that good. And out there in California, you have to be versatile.
And all those anglers in California, they don't have the opportunity to come this far to fish. East anywhere from California, they fish the same stuff over and over. But the 2, 3, 4, 5 guys that do leave California to go fish are successful.
Yes.
Look at the ones that have.
Several of them.
Yes.
Boom Boom, Skeet Reese. Jeez. 2 Sticks. Greg Gutierrez.
Yeah.
He left for a little while. He went.
Yeah, Greg Gutierrez.
From there. I don't know if he is or not.
I think we might have lost Brad.
Uh-oh.
But anyway, Jimmy, you were about ready to do some shout outs.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
You're fine. Yeah, no, I'd like to thank Horizon Roofing out of Welch, Oklahoma. They jumped behind me this year and have been great for me. Hope that the opportunities that I've provided them have come to fruition. We've made a few connections and hopefully help them out with their business as well. And that's what it is. It's a partnership. But along with them, Pro Guide Batteries, super great company to be involved with. The owner's a great Christian man. And then you got Matt. He runs everything, I think, and he's pretty good old boy too. I ain't gonna leave him out. But Sport RX, I get my glasses made there. I am getting older. I have bifocals.
Oh yeah,
And they make my glasses to fit me, not just a standard formula or whatever. How they adjust them and whatnot. They've gone the extra mile to make them fit me to how I need them to fit, like in and out in a boat. Man, if that line's just a little too high, getting up on the front deck's a little sketchy. But when they get that right, it makes for a better experience. Just a great. They're a young company. They're not a big company, so not too many people to deal with or get to know there, and a really good company to do business with. Rock Hard Baits. I can't thank Randy enough. In fact, he texted me a picture a while ago while we're doing this, and I said, "Yes, please." And he said, "You have to go fishing with me to get it." And I said, "You better pay 3 of them then, because we'll go a couple of times." But of course, the Bass Tank helps me out with my electronics. Vanmar Outdoors, both the boat and tackle shows, along with his taxidermy. Superb work they do there. If you're looking to have any of that done, Skeeter, Yamaha, FX Custom Rods, best rod I've ever used. Pissy Fun Reels. People say they're old Japanese, Chinese reels or whatever. And I'm fishing the opens with them. Caleb Koopel's fishing the elites with them. They're a great piece of equipment, just cutting out the middleman and cutting out corporate cost. And well, you see how much money the other guys are making. Maysuit Tackle, Chain Picket, Blackbeard Marine, keeping me on the water, and then Adrenaline Tackle working with me on my spinner baits and buzz baits and whatnot, and then Terminal Tackle. And he's got a bait that I've designed and we're coming out with. Be coming out soon. Brad will have it in the magazine, hopefully before the end of the year.
all right. Is that all?
Oh yeah, no,
Okay.
I wished I had a longer list, but I'm blessed to have what I have. They make it easier going up down the road. It's anyone just like the opens. That's between $4,000 and $5,000 a tournament to go fish one.
Yeah.
You say, oh, it's just a $1,800 entry fee. Yep, that's what the entry fee is.
Jay and I had a guest on here, AmericanBassClub.com. Do you remember their entry fee, Jay?
It was $1,000. No, $2,000. Sorry, $2,000.
They fished Grand, and then I don't know if you've seen them yet.
I did see it.
Okay.
They fished Grand, and then they went up to Saginaw Bay.
Saginaw Bay, that's what it was. I couldn't remember.
That's the one. They haven't had the one on Grand yet, have they?
No, they had to postpone that till December.
Okay. Oh, that's right. That's what I remember seeing was the December.
Yeah.
I'm like, whew, that could be tough, and it could be amazing.
Yeah, it could both. Yeah.
What I like about that one is it may be a $2,000 entry fee, but it's a team tournament, and the payback is 100,000. They pay down 40 places.
Yeah. And that's good for a different type of trail to come in, be able to. I mean, if you're winning that, what are you saying you are? Oh, I fished 3 days a week and I won that, or I fished 3 hours a week. I mean,
well, you do the math on it, like Nichols Marine, the trail. You're going to spend about the same amount of money for that entry fee. There are 5 tournaments versus 1, and the payback's comparable. So, I mean, it's how you want to look at it. I mean, when I see a guy fishing whatever on Facebook, man, I tell them all congrats or whatever they're doing. If it makes them happy, do it. You don't live forever.
Nope,
you may not get the chance again.
Well, hey, Jimmy, I thank you very much for putting up with guys. Jimmy put up with an incredible amount of adversity to get onto this.
It's all good. I will do this next time. If I get to come back, I will definitely.
You'll
I hope that when we come back, I'll have some good news from the opens or something this fall. Season was spread out. I've had a pretty big break, and I haven't fished a whole lot since the early spring, and got on the water, but no tournament. So,
Well, we lost Brad.
boy, he's gone now, isn't he? Hey, look there. That made me look skinnier, I think. No, I'm just kidding. But we've got a busy fall coming up. So,
Well, that's great, Jimmy. Yeah, guys, we tried to do this before with Jimmy, but he had like a torrential downpour going on, and we didn't get to hear much from you. And then this time he almost didn't get on, but until the 11th hour,
it went through.
54 minutes into the 11th hour, it worked. So, man, I'm thrilled that you got to get on this time,
Yes,
Jimmy.
sir.
It's been great talking to you. You imparted a lot of great information to us.
I did want to give a shout out to the burn camp on here in Oklahoma.
Sure, you talked about that last time, yeah.
And it's coming up in August 6th, or 26th. I'll have to look at it. I can't remember. Working too many hours right now. But
Sure.
That's an incredible organization. And then I don't know if there's somebody that sees this that has a need to fill or the opportunity to fill a need, they ought to really look into it. That's an incredible.
Well, why don't you tell the folks how to get a hold of the burn camp in Oklahoma?
I've made a couple of posts on my Facebook, but they have a Facebook page and they have a website, just www.burncamp.com, I think. Yeah,
it's just burncamp.com. Okay.
And it's out of Lake Tenkiller. They've got a camp and stuff. That, it's children that have been mistreated.
Burnt?
Yeah.
Oh, mistreated. Okay.
Not necessarily. Well, with fire, with the bad things happen to them, and
sure.
Some of these kids don't think they have a chance in the world, but you take them out and you're nice to them, and you'll be surprised the feedback you get from it.
I bet you would. Man. Yeah.
They just want the chance of being happy, and you give them a moment of that, and you can't buy that. I mean,
you give somebody a little bit of peace of mind, like when I was down and out, when I couldn't find a job worldwide working oil, and then I had a heart attack, and a veterans organization got a hold of me. They were following my Facebook posts, and they came and picked me up and took me fishing for the day. And first time I ever caught speckled trout and reds on the same day. And I am still publicizing those guys, just like these burn victims. You show somebody a little bit of kindness that's not used to getting kindness.
Changes their life.
And like I tell those guys, you never know whose life you saved.
No.
You'll never know. They're not going to tell you.
It doesn't matter. It's not about you. But if you can make somebody, give them that glimmer of hope.
Yes. That's why I say you never know whose life you saved,
Nope.
And it's not about praise, but it's, I'm getting choked up here.
Biblically, it's what we're supposed to do.
Burncamp.com. They're going to take some people fishing who normally wouldn't get to go fishing. And, time on the water, there's no substitute for it. I love sharing this fantastic sport that's been my obsession since I was 4 years old, and love sharing the opportunities I've had that I've been blessed to have been able to do. Just like you, Jimmy, you fished in places a lot of people don't ever have the opportunity to fish. You fish with people, that most people haven't had the opportunity to fish with. You fished against people that,
We grew up watching. I mean,
yes, exactly.
People you learn from. It's like that first day in the opens, I'm watching them, and I know several of them, but that's one thing. But to see those other guys that you've been watching on freaking Saturday morning for the last 30 years, and to see them sitting there beside you, it doesn't matter whether you beat them. It does. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. Everybody wants to win, but the fact that I stepped out there and did that, I didn't win anything, but man, it felt good. It really did.
Like all my friends who fish the Elite Series they say dream big, and if I never had a dream, I never would have become an outdoor writer. That I definitely never would have had a podcast and wouldn't have been able to talk to cool people like you, Jimmy.
I got something to say about that, and it's something. Believe it or not, it was I've taken hundreds of hours of leadership and studied that kind in sales and so forth, and positive attitude, all that kind of stuff. Mind management, you can control that thing. I found a little stamp, and I don't know. I think it might have been the chicken at Walmart, to be honest with you. My kid got something out of there, and they're like, I didn't get a toy. They got a stamp. I was reading it, and it said the difference between reality and dreams is you. It says it all right there.
Exactly.
People make excuses every day, and excuses are murderers big time.
I've tried to teach people that. I've tried to teach so many people that, you know, and it's that attitude, what you just said right there. Don't ever talk like that about yourself again, you know.
No.
I had no real training in writing. I had no real training in speaking. All my training is in science, you know, mathematics, physics.
Mm-hmm.
I made this up as I was going along because I had a dream that I wanted to be a professional fisherman. I wanted to meet Al Linder someday, and I have met Al Linder a couple of times, and I've been able to talk to him, tell him how he inspired me, that a normal kid. That's why I like this podcast. That's why I like Bassin Magazine. The average guy, that's who we're talking to. But, man, that's about all the time we have, Jimmy. You know, I cannot thank you enough for all the adversity you went through to get onto the Bassin Magazine podcast.
It's all good.
And guys, the Bassin Magazine is the official magazine of the Weekend Angler. And you know what? Go on out there this weekend, guys, and have some fun. Because you only get to do this once.
Take that chance.
Take the chance, dream big. Man, all those cliches, because they're true, guys. They're really true. That's all the time we have. Thank you very much. And I'd like to thank everybody who tuned in.
Thank you, guys.